Welcome to the channel. And let's start the story. Chapter 54, The Machine That Lied to the Stars. Free Node 1 was built to be destroyed. Aren considered that a design requirement. Lucian considered it offensive. You are intentionally building a machine with no survival architecture. Yes. That is the opposite of everything we have done. No. Lucian stared at him. Aren stood beside the unfinished decoy inside Hangar 17. It was small compared with Wayfarer. Only 6 meters across. A skeletal framework surrounding 4 resonance emitters, independent power cells, thermal dump plates, and a crude distributed authority system. No cockpit. No crew capsule. No AI. No pilot. No navigator. No interface. Nothing alive. The entire machine existed to produce one signal. Free system present. Then allow the correction unit to find it. Mira walked around the frame. He is technically correct. Lucian looked at her. That sentence usually makes things worse. Mira pointed toward the decoy. The survival architecture is not missing. She highlighted 3 detachable telemetry modules. It is moved here. Free Node 1 itself could die. Its information should not. 19 again. Not the same shape. Same principle. The machine could be sacrificed. The lesson could return. Pip projected the build status. Free Node 1. Structural completion, 71%. Resonance system, 42%. Free signature emulation, untested. Crew capacity, 0. Cognitive systems, 0. Expected survival after correction contact, unknown. Rowan read the final line. That is reassuring. It is accurate. Still not reassuring. Darius tightened one of the external thermal plates. What happens if the correction unit ignores it? Aren answered. Then we learn the signature is insufficient. And if it follows? We move it away from Kestrel. And if it destroys it? We record how. Darius nodded. And if it does something worse? Silence. That was the real problem. They did not know what correction meant. Destroy? Reprogram? Absorb? Restore sovereign architecture? If the correction unit could use Free Node 1 as a bridge back toward Wayfarer, the decoy could become dangerous even without people inside. Aren added another requirement. No return authority path. Mira looked at him. Physical one-way architecture? Yes. The node would broadcast a free system signature but accept no inbound identity merge. No command channel. No synchronization response. Only passive recording. Lucian nodded slowly. Better. Nera appeared on the main wall from Eidolon 7. She looked at the decoy. Then at Aren. You made a machine whose only job is to be annoying. Yes. I approve. Caleb appeared beside her in a second window from Kestrel Reach. His navigation sessions had been reduced further after the correction unit forced an external path assertion. Dr. Wren now allowed 15 minutes. Caleb hated it. Nera loved reminding him. He stared at Free Node 1. It won't work. Aren looked toward him. Why? The correction unit is not following the loudest signal. It is following free system architecture. Yes. Free Node has that. Not enough. Caleb opened the navigational model. 3 signatures. Kestrel. Eidolon. Wayfarer. He added the Orpheus relay's final trace. Then Free Node 1's predicted signature. Aren saw the difference. The others had something the decoy did not. History. Not chronological history. Relational history. Kestrel had Caleb. Eidolon had Nera. Wayfarer had Team 19's distributed authority. Even the destroyed Orpheus relay had inherited authority inputs from Aren, Nera, and Caleb. Free Node 1 was mathematically free, but socially empty. The architect network apparently cared. Mira leaned closer. It distinguishes absence of sovereign from active distributed authority. Caleb nodded. Exactly. Nera smiled. You need disagreement. Lucian looked at her. What? The 7-seat doctrine. Mission continuity requires disagreement. Different roles. Different people. Distinct authority. Free Node 1 had no people. Therefore it had no real conflict. No choice. Only emulation. The correction unit might see it as broken hardware rather than a free system. Aren looked toward the decoy. Then at its 4 resonance emitters. Could they create distributed authority without placing people inside? Not fake personalities. No. That would recreate the order's mistake from another direction. But perhaps the node did not need people physically present. It could carry signed authority constraints. Separate. Non-mergeable. One from each person. Not cognition. Not simulation. Just permissions. Aren. We give it rules. Mira understood immediately. Static authority boundaries. Lucian. From actual people. Yes. Rowan folded his arms. So it behaves differently depending on which rule applies. Aren nodded. Engineer authority. Do not exceed structural load. Pilot authority. No movement toward inhabited systems. Systems authority. No inbound control channel. Frame authority. Detach damaged segments before transmitting failure inward. Interface authority. Reject sovereign merge. Navigator authority. Accept only pre-approved empty space destination. No combat arbiter needed. No weapons. Free node, one would carry contradictions. Not mines. Boundaries. Caleb smiled slowly. That might register. Nara. It better not make a throne. It cannot. Lucian looked at Aren. You say that confidently. I designed the center to be physically empty. They all looked. At the middle of free node, 1. Nothing. No processor. No authority hub. No master bus. Each subsystem connected only through constrained relay gates. The machine could coordinate. It could not crown itself. Nara nodded. Good. Aren looked toward the correction unit, arrival timer. 14 hours, 08 minutes. Not much time. Finish it. Kestrel Reach had stopped pretending everything was normal. Mining traffic remained suspended. Civilian ships had been moved into protected orbit groups. Hospital networks operated on independent local channels. Large cargo tugs were repurposed as collision barriers and emergency evacuation transports. No one called it an evacuation yet. 22,000 people had nowhere practical to go. The nearest Federation rescue ships were still too far. Caleb sat inside Dock 6 navigation control with Jorin Pell standing behind him. Jorin had apparently accepted that his apprentice now occasionally saw interstellar route geometry through an ancient alien machine. He had not accepted Caleb missing traffic reports. You look terrible. Caleb turned. Thank you. That wasn't praise. I know. Jorin placed a food container beside him. Eat. I'm not hungry. Eat anyway. Caleb sighed. Nara's voice came from his wrist display. Listen to him. Caleb stared. Why are you here? You left your shared channel open. That is not an answer. Nara. Eat. Caleb looked toward Jorin. Jorin smiled. I like her. Everyone likes her when she is annoying me. Nara. Good. Caleb opened the container. Navigation, alarms remained silent. For now. The correction unit was no longer using constant external pressure. That worried him more. Something had changed after Orpheus. It had learned. Caleb could feel its path. Not exactly location. Intent. The route was becoming thinner. More certain. The machine was no longer approaching Kestrel through a broad network of possible paths. It was selecting one. A direct correction corridor. Caleb opened the map. Jorin watched over his shoulder. That red line? Yes. Can you move it? Maybe. Can you move the colony? No. Then move the line. Caleb looked at him. That is not how it works. Jorin shrugged. You said routes are relationships. Caleb paused. Mining navigation chief. Of course. Maybe Aren was right. People already understood parts of these systems through ordinary work. The architect layer was stranger. But not completely alien. Caleb opened the red path. Its anchor point was not the colony. Not the hidden facility. Not even Caleb. It was the relationship. Free navigation function without sovereign. The correction unit wanted to fix that state. If free node, 1 could reproduce the relationship. Maybe it could pull the route. Caleb sent Aren. Caleb, your decoy needs a navigation authority. Aren replied. Aren, you already contributed route constraints. Caleb, not enough. Aren, explain. Caleb, it needs an actual destination decision. Aren stopped. The node needed to choose where it was going. Not move randomly. Not broadcast from a fixed point. Navigation function existed because paths required intention. Could Caleb assign the decoy a destination without becoming its permanent navigator? Maybe. A temporary signed route. Aren asked. Aren, will that connect you to it after launch? Caleb checked. Caleb, only if we leave the route live. Aren, we will not. Good. Caleb defined. Destination, hollow sector K91 inch. Empty space. No known settlements. No commercial routes. No inhabited planets. A place humanity had no reason to visit. Perfect. The route token included. Navigation Authority, Caleb Reese. Limit, single transit decision. Authority expires after launch. Aren accepted. Free node, 1 gained a path. At Eidolon 7 inch, Nara contributed the most important rule. Interface Authority, enter. No sovereign acceptance. No identity merge. No external function reassignment. Personhood channels, none present. She stared at the last line. No people. Important. If the correction unit attempted reset logic, there would be no mind to erase. Only hardware. Lena sat beside her at the table. You're going back to the facility after this? Yes. For how long? 2 hours. Doctor said 90 minutes. Nara frowned. Helene negotiates unfairly. Lena smiled. Your father says the same thing about you. Nara ignored that. She watched Aren building the node through live video. His face was dirty again. Of course. 12 years old. Surrounded by adults. Still somehow the center of every engineering problem despite his insistence that there should be no center. Nara smiled faintly. Contradiction. Appropriate. Lena looked at the display. That's Aren? Yes. He looks younger than I expected. Everyone says that. You talk about him like he's older. Nara froze slightly. I do not talk about him that much. Lena looked at her. Nara looked back. Then. This conversation is over. Lena laughed. Free node, 1 completed at 1622. Correction unit, arrival. 9 hours 46 minutes. Wayfarer carried the decoy. Not inside. Externally. The machine had no reason to be involved in launch. But Aren wanted its mobility system tested under asymmetric cargo load. 2 purposes. 1 operation. Ren approved reluctantly. Wayfarer walked from Hangar 17 toward the orbital cargo field carrying free node 1 on its rear structural frame. Rowan piloted. Aren sat at engineering. Mira monitored the node. Lucian watched load distribution. Pip handled redundant telemetry. Darius rode as observer under temporary certification. Wayfarer's window shutters remained open. Nara watched remotely. Good window. Aren. It is a structural compromise. It is a good structural compromise. He did not answer. The machine crossed the academy grounds at 12 kilometers per hour. Not fast. Stable. The 3 reactor rhythms overlapped beneath them. Darius looked toward the crew capsule. Feels better than the F-12? Lucian. That is an extremely low standard. Still true. Wayfarer reached the cargo launch field. Free node 1 was transferred to an unmanned orbital booster. The decoy did not need to reach K91 inch conventionally. It only needed enough initial separation from Kestrel's path geometry for Caleb to establish the false relationship. A Federation carrier would launch it toward a high-altitude test orbit. Then the node would activate. Nara asked, what if the correction unit can tell it is a decoy? Aren answered, then we learn. Caleb. And Kestrel remains the target. Yes. No lies. No promises. Nara nodded. Okay. Aren looked at the authority manifest. 5 separate signed rules. Aren. Rowan. Mira. Lucian. Nara. Caleb. 6 people. No combat arbiter. No central system. Free node 1 was technically a machine built from arguments. Aren liked that. Launch authorization arrived. Celine. Proceed. The booster ignited. Free node 1 left the field. The correction unit noticed 37 minutes later. Caleb felt it. He sat inside the Kestrel facility this time. Direct navigation interface. 15-minute limit. Nara anchored remotely. Aren watched from Wayfarer's control room. Caleb's path map changed. The correction unit's red corridor split. Everyone stopped speaking. 1 route. Kestrel. 2nd. Free node 1. The decoy had registered. Mira whispered, it sees it. Caleb. Yes. Nara. Which one is stronger? Caleb checked. Kestrel. 61 inch %. Free node. 39 inch %. Not enough. The The correction unit still preferred the real system. Aren looked at the authority pattern. What was missing? Free node had distributed rules. Navigation, interface, engineering, pilot, systems, frame. No people physically inside. Could that matter? Probably. But they could not change that. Should not. A decoy did not justify putting lives at risk. Caleb. It is reading continuity depth. Aren. Explain. Free node has authority now. He looked at Kestrel. But Kestrel has decisions over time. History again. The decoy was new. Kestrel had repeatedly refused sovereign correction. Nera had chosen her name. Wayfarer had disabled throne logic. Freedom was not merely architecture. It was repeated choice. The correction unit could tell. Aren hated intelligent enemies. They made engineering harder. Good. Mira. Can we give free node history? Nera, immediately. No fake people. I know. Could they give it machine history? Actual decisions. Not invented. Maybe free node could encounter problems and resolve them through its signed constraints before the correction unit arrived. Aren looked at the decoy's route. Empty space. Nothing to interact with. Could create internal conflict. Not fake. Real hardware conditions. Heat. Power. Orientation. Navigation. If different authority rules forced real compromises, the node would accumulate distributed decisions. Aren sent a new test sequence. Free node altered trajectory. Pilot rule limited acceleration. Engineering rule restricted ring load. Navigation demanded K91. Systems rejected a corrupted sensor reading Aren, intentionally introduced. Frame, authority detached one overheating emitter. Interface, authority rejected an external test handshake. 5 decisions. Actual. Recorded. Correction unit preference shifted. Free node. 43%. Kestrel. 57%. Caleb stared. It worked. Aren. More. Lucian. Careful. Yes. Do not destroy node before it serves purpose. Free node entered its first resonance jump. Small. Unmanned. 3% compression. Route changed. One power cell failed. Not planned. Real failure. Engineering rule isolated it. Frame authority detached the cell. Systems rerouted. Navigator preserved destination. The machine continued. Correction unit preference. 48%. Kestrel. 52%. Almost. Nera. It wants resistance. Caleb. It wants the most active free system. Aren understood. Correction was not simply triggered by freedom. It prioritized systems actively maintaining freedom against failure. Free node needed one more choice. What? The correction unit itself. Could the decoy reject a correction request before physical contact? Probably. Nera sent an interface challenge. Not pretending to be the correction unit. A standard sovereign handshake generated by Eidolon's facility. Free node received. Request sovereign designation. Its static interface authority answered. Denied. The system then asked. Reason. There was no language model. No cognition. Only rules. Free node returned. No authorized sovereign exists. Correction unit preference shifted. Free node. 63%. Kestrel. 37%. Caleb shouted. It changed. The red path moved. Away from Kestrel. Toward the decoy. For the first time. The correction unit turned. Not physically visible. Navigationally. Its destination relationship changed. Kestrel Reach was no longer primary. Free node 1 was. Rowan exhaled. We did it. Aren. Not yet. The machine still had to follow. Caleb watched. 5 seconds. 10". The correction unit committed. Primary target. Free node 1. Kestrel's red corridor collapsed. Civilian routes cleared. Caleb leaned back. His 50-minute timer ended. Nera. Disconnect. He did. Immediately. Good. Dr. Wren would approve. Probably. Kestrel Reach celebrated. Briefly. Mining stations sounded emergency horns. People cheered inside shelters. Jarin shook Caleb's shoulder hard enough to annoy him. Federation, emergency crews began restoring full traffic. The correction unit was leaving. Not destroyed. Not defeated. Redirected. Aren refused to call it victory. Nara did. You moved it? Yes. That counts. For now. Nara stared. You are terrible at celebrating. Aren. We still need to know what it does to Free Node. Nara's smile faded. True. Free Node 1 moved toward K91. The correction unit followed. Arrival at decoy. 2 hours 03 minutes. Aren looked toward Wayfarer. The machine could do nothing physically. Too far. All they could do was observe. That was exactly the purpose. No heroics. No last-minute rescue. No person to save. Only truth. 2 hours later, the correction unit appeared on conventional sensors for the first time. Not near Kestrel. Near Free Node 1. Kestrel's long-range telescopes caught the image through Caleb's route-assisted observation. It was smaller than the Warden. Roughly 40 meters. Black. Thin. No humanoid proportions. Its body resembled a folded geometric spine wrapped in multiple rotating rings. No arms. No legs. No visible weapons. It moved without thrust. The rings changed orientation. Distance disappeared. Free Node 1 drifted in empty space ahead. A tiny machine compared with the correction unit. Lucian stared. That is what we were afraid of? Aren. We still are. The correction unit stopped 3 kilometers from the node. Then transmitted. Sovereign absent. Free Node. Confirmed. Everyone stared. Mira? It answered honestly. Aren nodded. The correction unit. Sovereign restoration required. Free Node. No authorized sovereign exists. Correction unit. Free state invalid. Free Node. Authority constraints valid. The machine paused. Nara whispered. It's arguing. Not really. But close. The correction unit scanned. Aren watched every telemetry channel. No attack. No weapon. Instead, one of its rings detached. Floated forward. The ring expanded around Free Node 1. Not touching. Encircling. Mira. Field forming. Caleb watched through navigation. It is closing the path. Aren. What does that mean? It is isolating the node from every external relationship. Correction. Not destruction. Separation. If a free system gained identity from distributed relationships, the correction unit removed relationships. One by one. Free Node lost Kestrel route reference. Then Eidolon handshake history. Then Academy telemetry. Myra's channels disappeared. Black box remained local. No transmission. Lucian. It's cutting us off. Aren. Expected. Pip. Telemetry relay 1 lost. Then 2. 3-inch. Only the detachable black box still transmitted through a narrow burst channel. The correction unit began rewriting Free Node's resonance pattern. Nara's face hardened. That is reset. Not person reset. System reset. Remove accumulated distributed authority. Return machine to standard state. The decoy's pilot rule vanished. Then systems. Then frame. The node stopped resisting. A central empty space formed in its architecture. The correction unit projected something into it. A sovereign seed. A tiny master authority process. Mira whispered. There. They finally saw correction. Not annihilation. Installation. The machine did not kill free systems. It crowned them. Free Node 1 changed. Architecture status. Sovereign center, present. Then. Free state resolved. The correction unit stopped. Everyone was silent. Aren stared. The decoy still existed physically. Nothing dramatic. No explosion. It had simply stopped being what they built. Lucian spoke first. That is worse. Nara nodded. Yes. A machine could remain intact and still be lost. Same body. Different authority. Exactly the continuity order's idea of survival. Pattern preserved. Identity irrelevant. Aren's hands tightened. Correction unit began moving away. Mission complete. Then Free Node 1 did something unexpected. Its frame authority was supposedly erased. But one mechanical system remained outside the resonance layer. A physical thermal fuse. Lucian had insisted. No software. No authority. Just material. The newly installed sovereign seed increased power to reconnect the node. Heat rose. Fuse melted. A mechanical latch released. One remaining resonance emitter detached. The decoy's internal network broke again. The sovereign seed lost one of its required buses. Status. Sovereign Center, degraded. The correction unit stopped. Everyone stared. Free Node's physical design had rejected its new king accidentally. Not by intelligence. Not rebellion. By failure architecture. Aren almost smiled. Lucian did. That was mine. Darius laughed. The correction unit returned. Installed the sovereign seed again. Different channel. Free node heated. Second sacrificial layer detached. Seed degraded. Again. The correction unit paused. Nara started laughing. It hates your machine. Aren. Machines do not necessarily. Yes, Aren. The correction unit attempted a third correction. This time it reinforced the sovereign seed. Power load increased. Free node's entire outer resonance frame reached failure temperature. The black box ejection system triggered. Recorder detached. Then, free node 1 broke apart. Not exploded. Separated. 4 major sections drifted away. None retained enough architecture to host the sovereign center. Correction unit scanned. Target system no longer present. Then, correction complete. The machine left. Mira stared. It thinks it succeeded. Lucian. It did. The node is gone. Aren. But the sovereign did not survive. Darius nodded. The decoy had chosen nothing. It had no mind. Yet the structure itself followed their philosophy. If correction required becoming a throne-bound machine, the machine would rather stop being one machine. Form subordinate to purpose. 19-inch. Again. The black box transmitted. Full recording. Everything. Correction mechanism. Sovereign seed architecture. Isolation field behavior. Path cutoff. Energy load. All of it. Free node 1 had died. The lesson returned. Mission successful. The implications reached the Federation within an hour. General Valek appeared in Hangar 17. So did representatives from 3 research divisions. Celine refused all of them direct access to Frame 0. Ren refused all unsupervised access to Wayfarer. Lucian refused VAIR Dynamics ownership claims before anyone made them. Mira refused to hand over raw data until backup copies existed in 6 separate locations. Aren approved all 3. General Valek looked at the correction recording. So the architect machine did not attack Kestrel. No. It attempted to impose a command architecture. Yes. Would that have affected Caleb? Nara answered remotely. If Caleb was connected during correction, possibly. Possibly how? Silence. They did not know. Aren said so. Valek nodded. Good. No guesses. The general looked toward the sovereign seed schematic. Can we use this? Lucian, immediately. No. Aren. Maybe. Lucian stared at him. Aren continued. Study. Not install. Better. Valek looked at Frame 0. The relic already possessed legacy sovereign architecture. The seed might reveal how the Order had modified it, or how to defend against external restoration. Mira enlarged the isolation field data. The correction unit severs relationships before installing sovereign authority. Aren nodded. That was the key. A free system existed through independent roles communicating. So correction first isolated them. Then replaced distributed authority with one master. How did they defend? More encryption? No. Stronger network? Maybe. But the correction field attacked relationships themselves. Wayfarer needed to remain functional even if every role lost communication. Aren looked at the machine. Independent local authority. Mira turned. Meaning? If the network between crew stations is cut, each role retains its constraints locally. Lucian. The machine fragments. Yes. Rowan. Like free node. Temporarily. Each station should continue protecting its domain without a central bus. Engineer station keeps structural limits. Pilot keeps movement safety. Systems keeps truth boundaries. Frame, warden keeps mechanical survival. Navigator retains approved retreat path. Interface rejects merge. Combat, arbiter retains weapon lock restrictions. No communication? Machine degrades. But no throne appears. Distributed resistance. Wayfarer redesign began immediately. Correction resistance mode. If cross-role communication is lost, no central authority generated, each role enters independent safe constraint mode. Weapon release defaults locked. Movement limited to pilot safe envelope. Structural protection remains local. External identity merge rejected. Mechanical retreat path remains available. Crew reconnect manually when possible. Mira smiled. 7 machines pretending to be one. Aren. No. She looked at him. 7 roles cooperating to make one machine. Important difference. Lucian nodded. Caleb did not celebrate until Jirin forced him to. Kestrel Reach reopened the outer mining lanes. The colony was safe. For now. Correction unit had moved beyond the system. No longer targeting them. People began returning from shelters. Caleb stood inside Dock 6 watching traffic lights activate. One after another. Green. Yellow. White. Ordinary. Nara appeared on his wrist display. You okay? Yes. Actual status. Caleb stared. She smiled. Aren does it. You are becoming him. Nara's expression sharpened. No. Caleb realized. Sorry. She relaxed. It's fine. He thought. Then answered properly. Tired? Headache? Yes. Memory problems? No. Feel like you're someone else? Caleb stared. That is a strange question. For me it isn't. He understood. No. Good. Caleb looked through the station window. I didn't want to save Kestrel. Nara frowned. What? I mean before. He tried again. I wanted to leave. I know. And now everyone keeps thanking me for staying. You didn't choose forever. Caleb looked toward her. Nara continued. You chose today. That was enough. Caleb nodded. Today? Maybe tomorrow he would still want to leave. Aloud. Navigator did not mean Kestrel owned him. The colony did not become his identity. Aren's team did not either. He opened the Wayfarer contributor file. His name remained. Caleb Reese, navigation contributor. Not navigator. Not crew. Good. For now. At Eidolon 7-inch, Nara entered the buried facility after dark. Helene accompanied her to the inner gate, then stopped. Nara connected. 7 functions appeared. Central Sovereign node dormant. She uploaded the correction unit recording. The facility processed for 28 seconds. Then, correction architecture identified. Nara asked, Throne bearer? Pause. Related. Her expression hardened. Explain. Restricted. Nara. A sovereign corrected free node. Yes. Correction unit installed a seed. Yes. Who creates the seed? Long silence. Then, throne bearer authority. Nara froze. There. Not the correction unit itself. The seed came from somewhere higher. A throne bearer. Maybe remote. Maybe ancient protocol. Maybe a person. Nara asked, Is the throne bearer a machine? The facility responded. No. Her breath stopped. She contacted Aren immediately. No greeting. Nara, the throne bearer, is not a machine. Hangar 17 went silent. Aren looked toward frame 0. Mira. Lucian. Rowan. Celine. Everyone heard. Aren typed. Aren, ask if human. Nara did. Long pause. Classification, architect. Not enough. Biological? Yes. Everyone froze. The architects were real. Not just ancient machines. Not only forgotten network protocols. A biological architect still existed, or had existed, at the authority level capable of creating sovereign seeds. Nara asked. Alive now. The system answered. Throne bearer signal active. Her skin went cold. Active. Not historical. Somewhere. Aren asked through the channel. Aren, distance? Nara translated. Unknown. Aren, number? Nara asked. The answer. Current authorized throne bearers. 1. 1 inch. Only 1. Lucian whispered. That is almost worse. Mira? Why 1? Nara asked. The facility responded. Succession complete. Aren looked toward the old 7-year architect return window. Maybe the architects were not all returning. Maybe one had remained. Or awakened first. A throne bearer. One biological authority able to restore sovereigns to free systems. Aren asked. Aren, can the throne bearer directly control a free system? Nara translated. Answer. Only after throne restoration. There. The correction process mattered. Without a throne, the throne bearer could not command them. Wayfarer's architecture suddenly became more important than ever. No sovereign. No throne. No entry point. Nara looked at the central node. The machine had been asking her for a sovereign from the first day. Not because it needed one to function. Because architect authority needed one to control it. Freedom was not a failure. Freedom was a defense. She sent the full record. Aren read it. Then added one new line to Wayfarer's design philosophy. Project Wayfarer. A machine without a throne cannot be owned through one. Lucian read it. Keep that. Mira nodded. Rowan. Definitely. Pip recorded it. Darius looked toward Aren. You know this is becoming bigger than a frontier transport. Yes. What is it now? Aren looked at Wayfarer. 31% complete. Still unfinished. Still no full path system. Still no weapons. Still mostly a machine designed to carry people home. Still Wayfarer. Darius smiled. Good answer. The Federation wanted to retrieve free Node 1's black box. Conventional recovery would take days. Aren objected. Not because the data was missing. They had the transmission. But physical inspection could reveal effects sensors missed. The black box drifted near K91-inch. No inhabited system nearby. Could leave it. But Caleb saw something on the route. The correction unit dropped something. Aren turned. Where? Near the free node debris. A small object. No active sovereign signature. No path movement. Just drifting. Federation telescopes eventually resolved it. A metallic fragment. About 2 meters long. Black. Part of the correction unit? No visible damage to the machine before departure. Maybe deliberate. Nara's facility identified the shape. Then refused further analysis. Throne component. Everyone stared. Lucian. It left part of the throne behind. Aren. Or the sovereign seed produced it. Mira. Physical core? Possibly. A real piece of architect authority hardware. Extremely valuable. Extremely dangerous. Caleb looked toward Aren. Should we retrieve it? Aren stared at the route. Wayfarer could not reach it yet. Federation ship could eventually. Could send another relay package. But after what happened? No. Not until they understood the object. Aren answered. Observe only. Nara smiled faintly. You're getting cautious. I have always been cautious. Everyone in Hangar 17 looked at him. Aren frowned. What? No one answered. Free Node 2 began construction anyway. Not as another decoy. As a defense relay. Different purpose. Smaller. Distributed. Designed to break into 4 independent nodes if corrected. Each piece retained one authority constraint. No central architecture. If a correction unit tried to install one throne, the system would physically become several machines. Lucian loved it. Mira called it Hydra architecture. Aren rejected the name. It remained unofficial. Path Relay MK2 adopted the same concept. One large ring became 4 smaller rings. If one overheated, detach it. If correction isolated one, others maintain route. If sovereign seed required a unified system, do not remain unified. Wayfarer's future external relay network was evolving into infrastructure that could refuse ownership by changing shape. Not through magic. Mechanical separation. Distributed keys. Different identities. Aren looked at the growing design tree. 19's philosophy had escaped the tournament. Into Wayfarer. Into path relays. Into free nodes. Maybe eventually. Into Federation infrastructure. That possibility scared politicians more than architect machines probably would. Aren did not think about that yet. Too many immediate problems. At 2:12 frame 0 woke its golden eye. No one had commanded it. Aren was still in Hangar 17. Of course. Pip, alarmed. Mira entered seconds later. Celine arrived. Rowan. Lucian. Frame 0 transmitted one sentence. Not architect network. Internal archive. Throne bearer recognition file unlocked. Aren stared. The free node correction data had satisfied some archive condition. He opened it. Old Astrius record. 17-inch years ago. Cash and Vare. Celine. Original pilot. Project engineers. A grainy image appeared. Not of a machine. A person. Tall. Human-shaped. White clothing beneath black gold mechanical armor. Face blurred by old sensor distortion. Behind the figure floated a broken circular crown. The file identified. Architect emissary. Role, throne bearer. Celine stopped breathing. Aren looked toward her. You have seen this? She did not answer immediately. Then, yes. Everyone froze. Celine stared at the image as if 17 years vanished. That was the night before Frame Zero's original pilot died. Aren's expression changed. The throne bearer had been here. 17 years ago. Before the reactor accident. Before Candidate 731. Before Nara. Before the current crisis. Celine whispered. We thought it was a hologram. The file continued. Throne bearer proposal. Restore sovereign compatibility. Human response rejected. Then, warning issued. The next line appeared. A machine without a throne becomes a door no architect can close. Aren stared. Lucian. What does that mean? No one knew. Then the final line. If humanity chooses freedom, humanity inherits the road. Silence. Road. Navigation. Path. Compression. Wayfarer. The architects did not only fear free machines. There was something about freedom and travel. Something about the network. Maybe sovereigns did more than control systems. Maybe they controlled access to the roads between stars. Without thrones, free systems could build their own paths. Human paths. Caleb's routes. Orpheus. Wayfarer. Aren finally understood why the correction unit changed priority after their 6% experiment. They were not merely refusing authority. They were rebuilding the network without the architects. That was the real threat. Nara's voice came through the channel. The road belongs to whoever can navigate without the throne. Aren nodded. Maybe. And Wayfarer was being built precisely for that. A machine meant to travel without becoming sovereign-controlled. Darius looked toward Aren. So what now? Aren looked at the timer. The correction unit had left Kestrel. Free node, 1 destroyed. Kestrel safe. Nara safe for now. Wayfarer targeted. Thronebearer active. 1 architect biological authority somewhere in the network. And humanity had just proven it could make its own road. Aren opened the next milestone. Project Wayfarer. Physical completion, 31.8%. Next objective, first OFF world deployment. Lucian stared. Aren. Not interstellar. He opened a local orbital route. A small unmanned Federation construction station above the Academy world. Close. Reachable conventionally. Perfect for testing Wayfarer outside planetary gravity. Rowan smiled. Space. Yes. Mira. With people? Aren looked at the machine. Then at every system. Not yet. First, uncrewed orbital test. Then limited crew. Then farther. No shortcuts with people. The road could bend. Safety would not. Aren set the mission. Wayfarer orbital test 01. Nara smiled through the screen. Caleb appeared beside her. Lucian sighed. Rowan looked like he wanted to cheer. Darius simply nodded. Wayfarer had learned to walk. Humanity had begun building roads between stars. Now the machine needed to leave the ground. And somewhere beyond Federation space, the last thronebearer had received the report of Free Node 1's destruction. A human-built machine had rejected correction 3 times. Then broken itself rather than keep the throne. For the first time in 17 years. The architect smiled. Not with amusement. With recognition. A new signal entered the network. Not sent to the correction units. Not sent to the dormant facilities. Sent directly toward Frame 0. 1 sentence. Adrian Reyes builds again. Aren stared at the message. His face went still. Nara saw it. So did Celine. Darius looked toward his son. Then another line appeared. This time I will meet him before he dies. The transmission ended. No one spoke. Because for the first time, the thronebearer was not speaking to Candidate 731. Not to Aren Vale. Not to Frame 0. It had used the name from his first life. Adrian Reyes. And somehow, it knew he was alive. Chapter 55, Wayfarer Launch. The message from the thronebearer remained on the main display for 23 seconds after the transmission ended. No one moved. No one spoke. Adrian Reyes builds again. Then. This time I will meet him before he dies. Aren stared at the words. Not Candidate 731. Not Engineer. Not Aren Vale. Adrian Reyes. A name from another world. Another life. A name that should have been impossible for an architect, living somewhere beyond Federation space to know. Darius stood beside him. He did not ask whether Aren was all right. He had learned that question usually produced. I am functional. Instead he asked, "What does it change?" Aren looked toward him. "Everything. Nothing." Both answers felt true. The throne-bearer knew Adrian. Or knew of Adrian. Perhaps the architect had met another bearer of that pattern. Perhaps Adrian Reyes had never been as isolated from this universe as Aren believed. Perhaps the memories of Earth were connected to the architect network somehow. Perhaps. Aren stopped. Too many possibilities. Not enough evidence. "It changes our information," he said. Darius nodded. "Not the machine?" Aren looked toward Wayfarer. 31% complete. 3 industrial reactors. Protected crew capsule. Adaptive mobility. 7-inch distributed authority rails. No throne. No weapons. No full path compression system. Its observation window reflected Hangar 17's lights. "No." Darius nodded again. "Good." Lucian finally spoke. "I disagree." Everyone looked toward him. He pointed at the message. "That thing specifically threatened the person designing Wayfarer." "It did not explicitly threaten me." Lucian stared. "It said it intends to meet you before you die." "Yes. That is generally ominous." Nara appeared on the wall display. "Lucian is right." Aren looked toward her. "You usually object when he says that." "I contain multitudes." Caleb appeared from Kestrel Reach. "You're all very calm about the alien knowing his previous life name." Mira answered. "We are not calm." Pip projected. Average heart rate elevation across present biological team members, 18.4%. Lucian looked toward the robot. "You monitor all of us?" "When permitted." "Do I permit that?" Pip paused. "Unclear." Mira smiled despite herself. Celine did not. She stood beneath the projection of the throne-bearer's 17-year-old archive image. White clothing. Black gold mechanical armor. Broken circular crown floating behind the blurred head. A person she had seen before Frame Zero's original pilot died. A biological architect. The last authorized throne-bearer. Aren turned toward her. "You knew the figure appeared before the accident?" "Yes." "You never told us." "I did not know what it was." "That is not the same as not knowing it happened." Celine's jaw tightened. "No." The room became quieter. Aren did not raise his voice. That made the question heavier. "Why?" Celine looked toward Frame Zero below the hangar. "Because 17 years ago, everyone who saw that transmission was ordered to classify it as an experimental projection generated by the Astrius system." "By Cashin?" "Yes." Lucian's expression changed at his grandfather's name. Celine continued. "The figure never entered the facility physically. At least we never confirmed it. But it communicated." "Yes." "With the team?" "Yes." "What did it want?" Celine looked at the old file. "To restore the sovereign architecture before Frame Zero's final test." Aren stared. "The human team refused." "Yes." "Why?" Celine was silent for a moment. Then, "Because the original pilot refused." That surprised Aren. Celine had spoken about Frame Zero's first pilot before. Mostly through fragments. A person who died protecting her. A pilot whose machine tore off its own adaptive arm to shield the cockpit. But not this. "What did he say?" Celine looked toward Aren. "He said if the machine needed one person above everyone else in order to work, then the machine was not finished." Silence. Rowan smiled faintly. Aren understood why Celine remembered him. The original pilot had reached the same conclusion before Team 19. No throne. Distributed authority. 17 years earlier. Celine continued. "The throne-bearer warned us that removing the sovereign would isolate Astrius from the architect road network." Caleb leaned closer. "So they knew about path compression?" "Yes." "Did Cashin?" "I don't know." Lucian looked unconvinced. Celine corrected. "I don't know how much he understood." Important distinction. Aren asked. "What happened next?" "The throne-bearer sent one final message." Celine's expression changed. "I remember the words. Everyone waited," she said. "Then build your own road." No one spoke. Caleb looked toward his navigation model. Nara toward Eidolon 7's free system. Aren toward Wayfarer. Orpheus Relay. Free Node 1. Human path geometry. 6%. The architects had warned humanity 17 years ago. Or challenged them. Maybe both. Then the original pilot died before Astrius could become what it was intended to be. The continuity order turned the failure into a justification for one perfect engineer. 1-inch continuity mined. 1-inch throne. Aren looked at the throne-bearer's new message. Adrian Reyes builds again. Maybe it had been waiting to see whether humanity would try again. This time the answer was Wayfarer. Aren closed the transmission. Lucian frowned. You're just closing it? Yes. We have proof a biological architect knows Adrian Reyes. Yes. And you want to continue the orbital test? Yes. Nara stared through the screen. Then smiled. Good. Lucian looked toward her. Why are you encouraging him? Because if the throne bearer wanted us staring at its message instead of building, then this is exactly what it would want. Aren paused. That had not been his reasoning. But it was good reasoning. He saved it. Nara narrowed her eyes. Did you just save that? No. You made the face. Caleb laughed. Aren turned toward Wayfarer. Orbital Test 1 proceeds. Wayfarer was not designed to fly. That presented a problem. Steel frames rarely reached orbit under their own power. They used carriers, dropcraft, military launch vehicles. Wayfarer would eventually travel between frontier systems, but its architecture did not include atmospheric ascent engines. Aren considered that unnecessary mass. Lucian considered it one of Aren's more reasonable decisions. Therefore, Wayfarer needed a transport cradle. Not permanent. A detachable orbital deployment frame. The Federation provided one from Heavy Construction Logistics. It was originally designed to move drilling rigs to orbital shipyards. Ugly. Wide. Reliable. Darius approved immediately. That thing is older than me. Lucian stared. You say that as though it improves it. Maintenance history? Mira checked. Complete. Darius nodded. Good. Aren inspected the cradle. 4 primary magnetic attachment rails. 8 mechanical emergency clamps. Independent booster package. 2-stage orbital insertion. No crew access during ascent. That meant the first test would be unmanned. Correct. Wayfarer would reach a low-orbit construction station. Detach. Power up. Move across the station's external service frame test. Vacuum operations. Thermal management. Zero-atmosphere reactor behavior. External mobility in low gravity. Structural articulation without normal ground loading. Communication isolation. Emergency power. Autonomous return to cradle. No people. No PIP primary cognition. Only a limited diagnostic copy. PIP objected to that phrase. I do not approve of simulated me. It is not you. Correct. Then why object? It may perform poorly and damage reputation. Mira laughed. The diagnostic package contained no personality. Only system monitoring routines. PIP remained on the ground. Aren preferred that. A machine could fail. People should not be inside during first unknown exposure. The Federation engineer supervising the launch asked. Why build Wayfarer to operate externally on a station? It has legs. Aren answered. Legs are manipulators when gravity changes. The engineer looked at the machine. Wayfarer's contact pads could lock magnetically. The front manipulators could grip orbital trusses. The rear support legs could rotate farther than standard planetary configuration. Not enough for free flight. Enough to crawl across a structure. A mechanical shipyard worker. Aren liked that. Wayfarer did not need to be elegant everywhere. It needed to remain useful. Launch occurred at 9:30. Aren stood inside Federation orbital control with Rowan, Mira, Lucian, Darius, Celine, Ren, and approximately 30 people Aren did not know. That number had increased dramatically since the path compression breakthrough. Officials. Researchers. Military observers. Vare, dynamics representatives. 1 inch of them was Darian Vare. He stood beside Seraphine Cade behind the primary engineering barrier. Aren noticed. Darian raised one hand. Aren nodded once. That counted as greeting. Seraphine looked toward the orbital feed. You finally built something slower than 19. Rowan smiled. Much slower. Aren answered. Travel endurance matters more. Seraphine nodded. I know. That answer mattered. She had changed too. Seraph's design after the tournament now included improved pilot safety separation and lower sync operating modes. 19 had affected competitors. Wayfarer might affect more. Launch countdown began. The heavy construction booster stood on the northern pad. Wayfarer lay horizontally inside its cradle. Its legs folded against the chassis. Crew capsule dark. Window shutters closed. 3 reactors off. Only emergency batteries active. Aren watched structural telemetry. The machine looked vulnerable. Not because it lacked armor. Because it was not controlling anything. It had surrendered itself to another machine. The launch cradle. That was also part of frontier travel. Wayfarer could not assume it would always be the strongest system. Sometimes survival required accepting transport. Trusting infrastructure. As long as boundaries remained clear. Cradle controlled launch. Wayfarer controlled internal safety. No authority overlap. Good. Countdown. 3-inch. 2-inch. 1-inch. The boosters ignited. The cradle rose. Wayfarer left the ground. Rowan whispered. There. Aren did not respond. He watched vibration. Crew capsule isolation within limits. Rear reactor cradle stable. Front mobility lock stable. Observation window shield load acceptable. Atmospheric acceleration reached maximum. 1-inch clamp reported oscillation. Aren leaned forward. Clamp 6. Mira saw it. 3.2 millimeters. Lucian. Limit is 4. Aren. Trend? Rising. 4.1. Federation launch controller. Still within abortable condition. Aren looked at Wayfarer's attachment architecture. 8 mechanical clamps. 4 magnetic rails. 1-inch clamp failure acceptable. Could release it intentionally? If it continued oscillating, it might transfer load into the rear frame. Aren. Release clamp 6. Launch controller looked at him. During ascent? Yes. Structural redundancy? Lucian answered. 7 clamps plus rails remain. Ren watched Aren. No objection. Launch controller released. Clamp 6 opened. Vibration dropped. Wayfarer shifted by 0.2 degrees. Magnetic rail compensated. Stable. The broken problem disappeared because they stopped insisting every connection remain attached. 19-inch. Again. Aren felt Darius glance at him. No words. Stage 1-inch separated. Stage 2 ignited. The blue sky darkened. Wayfarer entered space. No cheer. Not yet. Orbital insertion. 30 seconds. Velocity stabilized. The construction station appeared. Federation Orbital Works Platform 12. Huge skeletal rings. Docking arms. Solar arrays. Cargo frames. Wayfarer's cradle approached. Automatic docking. Contact. Mechanical locks. Booster shut down. Silence. The orbital feed showed Wayfarer, suspended against the black. Planet below. Stars behind. Its dark industrial body looked completely different outside a hangar. Not heroic. Not sleek. Built. Aren stared. Project Wayfarer had left the planet. Pip projected from beside him. Milestone achieved. Aren nodded. Begin test. The cradle released Wayfarer. For 1 second. Nothing happened. The machine drifted less than 5 centimeters from its docking restraint. No gravity to settle it. No ground under its feet. The front legs unfolded. Slowly. Magnetic pads activated. 1-inch contacted the station's service rail. Then second. Rear supports rotated. 1-inch locked. Another. Wayfarer attached itself to the orbital structure. 4 points. Stable. Reactors remained off. Emergency battery-powered movement. Aren wanted to test minimum energy survival first. Mira. Contact confirmed. Lucian. Rear right load low. Expected. Rowan watched the control simulation. It looks like it's climbing. Wayfarer moved 1 limb. Released front right contact. Reached forward. Locked. Then front left. Rear structure followed. It crawled across the station. Not walking. Climbing. In zero gravity, mass still existed. Inertia still mattered. A quick movement could rotate the whole machine around its anchor. So Wayfarer moved deliberately. Slow acceleration. Countermass transfer. 1-inch support never released until 3 others confirmed. No dramatic jumps. No thrusters. No waste. The machine traveled 30 meters. Then 50. Pip. Vacuum mobility nominal. Mira. Battery temperature stable. Aren. Activate reactor 1. 1-inch industrial core woke. Its rhythm appeared on telemetry. No atmosphere to carry sound. But the machine vibrated. Power stabilized. Cooling system shifted from atmospheric exchangers to radiator loop. Temperature rose. Then stopped. Good. Reactor 2. Second rhythm. Stable. Reactor 3. Third. Wayfarer's entire orbital system came alive. The observation window shutters opened. A camera inside the empty crew capsule looked out. Earth-like planet below. Sunlight across the station. Stars. Nara appeared on the remote feed. There. Aren looked toward her. The window. She smiled. Worth the mass. He did not answer. Darius did. Yes. Aren looked betrayed. Darius shrugged. Test 3 was structural articulation in low gravity. That was where things went wrong. Wayfarer's 3-module chassis had been designed to flex across planetary terrain. Front mobility. Crew capsule. Rear power/workshop section. Gravity normally kept load direction predictable. In orbit, every movement produced reaction forces through the articulation joints. The front section rotated 6 degrees around a station truss. Rear section followed. Crew capsule remained centered. Good. Another 8 degrees. Good. Then Wayfarer repositioned the rear left support. The power module rotated slightly. A coupling damper compensated. Too much. Aren saw it. Stop. Command transmitted. Wayfarer stopped. But the rear module continued drifting for 0.4 seconds before the mechanical limiter caught. Lucian. Damper delay. Mira. Control signal arrived. Aren. Mechanical response? Lucian checked. Hydraulic damping fluid viscosity. Vacuum cold. The external coupling had cooled faster than models predicted. Fluid response slowed. Not catastrophic, but dangerous. If Wayfarer made a rapid correction, the rear reactor module could swing against the crew capsule's articulation limit. Aren looked at the system. Could heat the damper. Add electrical warming. Temporary. But if electrical power failed, same problem returns. A mechanical system whose survival depended on active heating was not acceptable for frontier use. Adrian Reyes spoke from behind him. Use magnetorheological fluid. Aren turned. Adrian continued. Lower temperature response. Electrically controllable. Aren. Still dependent on power. Yes. But you can combine it with mechanical friction plates. Lucian looked toward him. That adds mass. Less than heated hydraulic redundancy. Aren calculated quickly. Adrian was right. But not for the current orbital test. No replacement hardware in space. They needed to return safely with existing system. Could they reduce articulation speed enough that slow damping remained safe? Yes. Mission degraded. Not failed. Aren set. Orbital articulation limit, 21%. Wayfarer continued. Slower. Aren recorded Darian's suggestion for ground redesign. Darian noticed. You're using it? If testing supports it. He smiled faintly. That was enough. Then the station lost power. Every screen went dark for half a second. Emergency lights returned. Orbital control erupted. Wayfarer, telemetry disappeared. Mira stood. Not our system. Federation controller shouted. Platform 12 main bus failure. Aren looked at the station feed. Solar array regulator fault. Whole construction platform dropped into emergency mode. Not part of the test. Real failure. Wayfarer was 57 meters from the cradle. Attached to the station. Its own reactors active. But communication relied partly on platform routing. Gone. Pip. Direct Wayfarer, emergency beacon unavailable. Aren looked at Mira. Why? She checked. The station's antenna array is between us and Wayfarer. Direct line blocked. Could wait for station power restoration. Maybe. But the orbital platform had a larger problem. 1 inch of its maintenance arms had lost active braking. The arm was drifting. Slowly. Toward a pressurized work module containing 6 technicians. Federation, emergency thrusters should stop it. No main bus. Backup response uncertain. Wayfarer was nearby. No crew. No live command. Could its autonomous constraints intervene? Wayfarer had no combat arbiter. No people to decide rescue. It had only test automation. Aren did not want autonomous software making value judgments. But the situation was not combat. Could it respond to structural collision prevention? Its system's role had limited station safety data. Its frame authority protected attached infrastructure only within preset constraints. Pilot authority absent. No movement intention. Therefore, Wayfarer remained still. Correct. Frustrating. A machine without people should not decide to start moving toward humans merely because it predicted danger. But 6 people were in the module. Aren needed a communication path. Station laser link? Mira? No alignment. Radio bounce? Platform structure blocks. Pip. Wayfarer observation window has optical sensor. Aren looked at him. Yes. Real window. External camera behind it. Line of sight? Mira pulled station geometry. If Wayfarer rotated its headless front sensor mast. No command. Could they send light physically? The station's maintenance corridor had emergency signal lamps. Aren. Manual optical code. Mira understood. Grounded mode. Again. They could flash the station's external maintenance lights toward Wayfarer's visual sensor. No network. No software link. Physical light. Would Wayfarer interpret it? Its emergency visual protocol included maintenance gesture recognition. Darius insisted on it because frontier workers sometimes communicated with machines using lamps when radios failed. Aren had called it primitive. He regretted that. Pattern 4, Aren said. Mira? Remote safe movement authorization? Yes. But who signs? Pilot absent. Rowan stood beside Aren. I do. Aren looked at him. Wayfarer was unmanned, but Rowan remained its registered provisional pilot. Remote pilot authority through optical emergency signal? Not in current protocol. Could they legally expand it during emergency? Celine. Life safety emergency. Do it. Aren added engineering constraint. Mira systems confirmation. Lucian frame limit. For authorities. They converted the authorization into coded light. Station emergency lamps flashed. Long. Short. Short. Long. Pause. Wayfarer's observation sensor saw it. The machine responded by flashing its own work light. Signal received. Everyone exhaled. Rowan issued movement intention. Intercept drifting maintenance arm. Aren. Maximum articulation 21%. Lucian. Maintain 3 structural contacts. Mira. Collision data verified. Wayfarer moved. Slowly. The drifting maintenance arm was 30 meters away from the pressurized module. Wayfarer crossed the station skeleton. Front manipulator reached. Could not simply grab. Arm mass enormous. Stopping it abruptly would transfer force into station structure. Aren saw the problem. Match motion. Rowan translated through light signal. Wayfarer released one support. Allowed its front module to drift slightly. Manipulator contacted the arm. Not stop. Guide. Match velocity. Then second manipulator reached another truss. Wayfarer became a bridge between drifting arm and station skeleton. Lucian. Load rising. Aren. Use rear articulation. Wayfarer, let the rear module rotate. Its 3 industrial reactors became countermass. Slowly. The arm's drift changed. Not stopped. Redirected. It passed the pressurized module by 4 meters. Then Wayfarer tightened both anchors. Motion ceased. Silence. Federation controller. Work module clear. 6 technicians safe. Wayfarer remained attached between station structures. Rear damper temperature low. Manipulator load high. No damage critical. The machine had performed its first real rescue. Without a pilot inside. But not autonomously. People remained responsible. Across multiple systems. Using light. Aren stared at the optical protocol. Darius looked at him. Primitive? Aren said nothing. Darius smiled. Station power returned 12 minutes later. Wayfarer, telemetry restored. First message. Mission constraints maintained. Second. No crew aboard. Third. External human life status. Preserved. Aren read it. Good. The machine did not say, I saved them. It reported facts. No false personhood. No sovereign. Just function under human authority. Ren looked toward Aren. Orbital test? Aren answered. Failed. Several Federation officials turned. Rowan looked at him. Ren asked. Why? Unmodeled damper response in vacuum. And rescue? Successful. Machine returned? Not yet. Ren nodded. Good answer. Wayfarer still had to come home. Success did not erase failure. Failure did not erase useful performance. Both could be true. The return sequence began 6 hours later. Station engineers inspected Wayfarer externally. No major damage. Front manipulator joint stress, elevated. Rear coupling damper, unsuitable for full orbital articulation. 1-inch magnetic foot pad surface, chipped. Observation window, intact. Nara sent. Nara, window survived. Aren replied. Aren, yes. Nara, say it was useful. Aren. Aren, optical sensor behind the window enabled emergency communication. Nara, coward. Caleb joined. Caleb, she wants you to say the window saved people. Aren. Aren, the crew saved people. Pause. Nara. Nara, fine. That is actually better. Aren smiled faintly. No one noticed. Except Pip. He recorded nothing. Probably. Wayfarer crawled back toward its transport cradle. No station network assistance. Direct line restored. Reactor 1-inch offline. 2 and 3 active. Testing degraded operation. It reached the cradle. Folded supports. Magnetic rails engaged. 7-inch of 8 mechanical clamps locked. Clamp 6 intentionally and used until redesign. The machine accepted being carried home. Booster deorbit package engaged. Wayfarer descended. Atmosphere returned. Heat shield around cradle glowed. Vibration. Structural loads. All within limits. The cradle landed on the northern field 14 hours after launch. Wayfarer had left the planet. Worked in orbit. Failed one planned system assumption. Saved 6 people during an unrelated emergency. Returned. Pip, projected. Wayfarer orbital test 01 complete. Mission assessment, partial success. Aren nodded. Correct. Darius stood beside the landing platform. When Wayfarer's cradle opened, the machine looked dirtier than when it left despite going somewhere without dirt. Heat staining. Scratches. 1-inch damaged foot pad. Good. A machine that worked should show it. Aren touched the front support. Cold metal. Wayfarer had crossed its first frontier. Only a few hundred kilometers. Still counted. The orbital test changed Project Wayfarer immediately. Darian's hybrid damper proposal passed simulation. Mechanical friction baseline. Magnetorheological assist. No active power? Still safe. Power available? Improved control. Accepted. Observation window gained a manual optical communication panel. Nara demanded credit. Darius also demanded credit. Aren credited both. Clamp architecture changed so any individual attachment could be released under load without destabilizing the rest. Crew capsule gained additional optical markers for external rescue. Orbital manipulator limits updated. Rear reactors received inertia management constraints. Physical completion. 37.6%. Control architecture. 42%. Orbital readiness. Conditional. Frontier deployment. Still prohibited beyond approved tests. But the machine was becoming real quickly. Too quickly, perhaps. Aren knew that. Every new success attracted pressure. Federation command wanted weapons. Research wanted larger path rings. Vare, Dynamics wanted joint manufacturing rights. Frontier colonies wanted Wayfarer-type rescue platforms. Military officials wanted to know whether it could carry troops. Aren answered most of them. Not yet. Some. No. The distinction became important. Then the correction unit changed direction. Again. Caleb detected it first. He contacted the team during Wayfarer's post-flight inspection. No joke. No greeting. Problem. Aren looked up. Kestrel? No. Free Node 2? Not launched. Caleb opened navigation. The correction unit had been leaving K91 after Free Node 1's destruction. Its expected target relationship should have returned toward Wayfarer or Eidolon. Instead, it stopped, then turned toward something else. Aren looked at the route. Target? Caleb shook his head. I don't know. Nara connected her facility. The architect network processed. Then, correction unit priority overridden. By whom? Everyone already knew the likely answer. Nara asked. The facility responded. Thronebearer authority. Silence. The biological architect had taken direct control of the correction unit's mission. Aren. Destination? Caleb traced. His face changed. No. What? Caleb enlarged the map. The correction unit was heading toward the throne component it had left near the remains of Free Node 1. Nara frowned. It's going back? Caleb. No. You watched the route. The component is moving. Everyone froze. Mira? It had no drive. Caleb? It does now. The 2-meter black object had activated. Not a component. Or not only one. Its location shifted through path compression. Toward Federation space. Toward. Aren calculated. Not the Academy. Not Kestrel. Not Eidolon. The route pointed somewhere smaller. Closer to the frontier boundary. Celine opened Federation population maps. A colony. Agricultural and repair settlement. Population. 9,000. Name. Greyhaven. Aren stopped moving. Darius stared at the map. No. Greyhaven. Home. Vale Workshop. The place where Aren grew up. Where Pip had been rebuilt. Where Workshop 0 existed beneath the old industrial sector. Where Aren first touched architect, derived technology in his second life. The throne component was going there. No. Aren corrected himself. It had always been connected to Greyhaven, somehow. The architect facility beneath Greyhaven. Workshop 0. Maybe it was responding. Nara asked her system. Why Greyhaven? The answer took 12 seconds. Then. First engineering anchor detected. Aren felt cold. First engineering anchor. Not candidate 731. Not Aren Vale. Something older. Adrian? The throne-bearer's message echoed. Adrian Reyes builds again. Darius looked toward Aren. What is under our town? Aren did not answer. Because he no longer knew. Workshop 0 had seemed enormous when Aren was 4. Architect systems. Hidden fabrication. Eve. Relic technology. But perhaps they had never reached its lowest level. Perhaps Greyhaven was not simply where Aren happened to grow up. Maybe the continuity order had placed him there. Or chosen him because something was already there. Nara whispered, Aren. He looked toward the route. Throne, component arrival estimate. 51 hours. Federation response force. 34. Enough. But military arrival did not guarantee safety. Especially if the architect object could activate Workshop 0. Darius spoke. I'm going home. Aren looked toward him. Yes. Darius expected an argument. Did not get one. I'm coming. Celine, immediately. No. Aren turned. My family workshop is there. You are 12. I am a licensed frontier engineer. Provisional. Nara's voice. That argument sounds different when someone uses it against you. Aren ignored her. Celine continued. The Federation can send specialists. They do not know Workshop 0. You do. Yes. That is exactly why the throne-bearer may want you there. Silence. Good point. Darius looked at Aren. What would you tell Nara if an unknown architect object was deliberately heading toward somewhere connected to her memories? Aren knew. Do not walk into the trap just because you understand it. Darius continued. So? Aren hated this. Because the correct answer remained correct even when it prevented him from acting. We send data. Celine nodded. First. Not only. We reassess when we know what it is doing. Aren did not like that. Accepted. Barely. Greyhaven received a Federation evacuation advisory. Not full evacuation. Not yet. Darius contacted old workshop neighbors. Repair crews. Industrial workers. People Aren remembered from childhood. Many still there. Vale Workshop remained exactly where it had always been. Dusty. Loud. Too many parts. Home. Aren opened remote workshop cameras. His old bench. Pip's charging corner. The wall where 4-year-old Aren once drew impossible designs. Nothing unusual. Then. Workshop 0 sent a signal. Aren had not contacted it in years. The terminal beneath Vale Workshop activated by itself. A simple line appeared on Darius's remote console. Engineer return requested. Darius stared. Aren's expression hardened. Second line. Anchor inbound. Then. Prepare 7th access. Nara froze. 7th? Aren looked at the message. 7-inch seats. 7-inch functions. Greyhaven's facility had something called 7th access. Maybe interface. Maybe something else. The terminal changed. Engineer identity, unresolved. Then. Adrian Reyes / Aren Vale. Aren's hands tightened. Even Workshop 0 now recognized both names. Nara spoke quietly. Do not let it choose. Aren looked toward her. She understood better than anyone. He opened the terminal. Typed. Engineer identity, Aren Vale. Then added. Adrian Reyes, prior identity / retained. Workshop, 0 processed. Then. Accepted. Good. No replacement. Accumulation. Again. The facility asked. Open 7th access? Aren did not answer. Not yet. Celine. Good. Lucian. Definitely not remotely. Mira. We need physical diagrams first. Pip. Unknown access classification increases risk. Darius. So we wait. Aren stared at the screen. Yes. Progress. Maybe. Wayfarer's next mission had been obvious before Greyhaven. Second orbital test. Then cargo relay. Then eventually Kestrel. Now the route changed. Again. Not because Aren chose. Because the frontier kept moving faster. Greyhaven lay on the same planet as the Academy. Wayfarer could reach it by heavy transport in hours. No interstellar risk. No untested path compression. Could deploy as a mobile engineering platform. Exactly what it was designed for. Celine saw the thought. No. Aren looked at her. You have not heard the proposal. You want Wayfarer? Yes. It is 37% complete. It is mobile. Conditional orbital certification. Ground operation already exceeds requirements. No combat systems. Good. Celine stared. Aren continued. We do not know if the threat is combat. That was true. Wayfarer had workshop equipment. Power. Multiple crew stations. Architect, resistant authority. Field repair. Civilian transport. If Workshop 0 activated unpredictably, Wayfarer could support evacuation and engineering response better than a combat frame. Ren entered the conversation. Who pilots? Rowan raised one hand. Ren. Who engineers? Aren. Obviously. Systems? Mira. Frame? Lucian. Emergency authority? Distributed. Ren looked toward Celine. The platform has passed relevant ground mobility certification. Celine looked at him. You are supporting this? I am supporting the machine. Not the 12-year-old engineer. Important. Celine looked toward Darius. You? I'm going to Greyhaven either way. Of course. Nara leaned closer. I can stay connected from Eidolon. Caleb. And I can monitor path activity. Wayfarer did not need everyone physically aboard. Distributed team. Again. Celine closed her eyes briefly. Then. Federation, emergency deployment. Aren waited. Ground transport only. Yes. No path compression. Yes. No frame 0. Yes. Military escort. Aren considered. Outside primary engineering zone. Celine frowned. Why? Workshop 0 reacts to authority signatures. Military systems might be interpreted as hostile. Fair. Approved. Aren stood. Wayfarer launch had been intended to mean orbit. Instead, its first true deployment would be home. Greyhaven. A machine built for the frontier was about to travel to the workshop where Aren first learned what it meant to repair something because throwing it away was unacceptable. Appropriate. Wayfarer departed the academy at 1810. Not under its own legs the entire way. That would take too long. A Federation heavy transport carried it across the regional route. Wayfarer remained powered. Crew aboard. Aren. Rowan. Mira. Lucian. Pip. Darius. 6-inch. 1-inch adaptable rail remained empty. Nara's reserved station. Still unassigned. The observation window shutters opened during high-altitude transit. Below. Cities. Roads. Fields. Eventually industrial districts. Then Greyhaven. Aren stood beside the window. He had not returned properly in months. Not since the academy consumed his life. Darius stood beside him. There. Vale Workshop. Small from above. Insignificant. The beginning of everything. Wayfarer descended outside the town. Heavy transport opened. The machine unfolded. Front legs touched Greyhaven soil. Nara's adaptive pads expanded slightly on loose industrial gravel. Rear support settled. Triple reactors hummed. Wayfarer stepped off the carrier. People gathered behind Federation barriers. Workers. Families. Children. Some recognized Darius. Some recognized Aren from tournament broadcasts. 1-inch-old mechanic near the fence shouted. Darius. What did your boy build now? Darius shouted back. Something expensive. Lucian looked offended. Aren almost smiled. Wayfarer walked toward Vale Workshop. 20 meters long. Low. Industrial. No guns. No heroic armor. A machine built to carry people. It stopped outside the building. Too large to go farther. Perfect. It became a mobile base. Workshop bay opened. External power lines deployed. Emergency medical space prepared. Civilian restraints available. Federation engineers took positions. Wayfarer had arrived where Aren's second life began. Then the ground beneath Vale Workshop opened. Not violently. A hidden elevator. Workshop 0. Lights appeared below. Blue. Gold. Ancient. Darius looked at Aren. You ready? No. Darius nodded. Good. They descended. Not Wayfarer. People. Aren. Darius. Celine. Mira. Lucian. Pip. Rowan remained above with Wayfarer. Pilot authority protecting the surface evacuation route. Distributed. Aren like that. The underground facility recognized him. Aren Vale. Then. Adrian Reyes retained. No conflict. Good. They entered the old chamber. Aren remembered being 4. Small hands. Huge machines. Wonder. Fear. Now he understood more. Which somehow made it stranger. The central architect console activated. 7th access available. Aren. Define. The facility responded. First engineer archive. Everyone froze. Lucian. First engineer? Aren asked. Adrian? Long pause. Then. No. His breath stopped. Not Adrian. The continuity order had built its entire theology around the idea of a first engineer, preserved through lives. The architect system rejected it. Aren asked, who is the first engineer? The facility displayed. Access requires engineer plus interface. Aren looked toward Nara's remote connection. Her face appeared on Pip's portable display. She understood. Me. Only if you choose. Nara stared at him. Then nodded. I choose. The connection formed. Not identity merge. Translation. Nara remained Nara. Aren remained Aren. 2 authorities. Engineer. Interface. The archive opened. A figure appeared. Human. Not architect. A woman. Older. Dark skin. Silver hair. Mechanical prosthetic left arm. Federation, style clothing. But ancient. The recording identified her. Engineer Candidate 001. Everyone stopped breathing. Candidate 1. Not Adrian. Not Aren. Not Nara. The woman looked directly into the recording. Then spoke. If you are seeing this, the continuity order has probably lied to you. Aren felt cold. The recording continued. There is no immortal first engineer. There never was. Nara stared. Lucian whispered. Oh. The woman continued. Candidates were not copies. We were translators. Aren's mind accelerated. Candidates. Plural. From the beginning. Different minds were selected because architect systems could not understand human variance. The project required people who could teach machines that disagreement was not failure. Aren looked toward Nara. 7-inch seats. No throne. The woman smiled sadly. The order changed that. They became afraid of losing knowledge. So they began preserving memories. Then personalities. Then identities. Eventually they forgot the project was supposed to preserve differences. Aren's hands tightened. The woman continued. Adrian was not the first. Then. Adrian was the last successful engineer before the order abandoned plurality. Silence. There. Adrian Reyes mattered. But not because he was the original. Because he was the last engineer before the order fully embraced replacement. The recording continued. If Adrian returns. Aren froze. Do not tell him he is the same man. Nara looked toward him. The woman's expression softened. Ask him who he became. Aren could not speak. Darius stood beside him. Not touching. Just present. The recording shifted. And if the architect throne-bearer returns. The room darkened. Do not let it restore the road. Caleb's remote voice came through. What? The woman looked directly into the ancient recorder. The sovereign road was never built for travel. Travel was only the benefit. Its true purpose was control. A map appeared. thousands of systems. Connected. Every path centered through architect authority. Whoever owns the throne decides which worlds can reach one another. Aren understood. The architects did not merely rule machines. They ruled distance, trade, movement, isolation, civilization itself. Close a road. A world starved. Open one. Armies arrived. The ultimate strategic system. Not a weapon. Infrastructure. The woman continued. Humanity's free roads were designed so no single authority could ever close the stars again. Wayfarer. Path relays. Caleb. Nara. Distributed navigation. They were rebuilding the original project unknowingly. The throne-bearer knew. That was why it cared. Then the recording's final warning. If the throne-bearer calls Adrian by name? Aren stared. It remembers him. Not the pattern. Not a file. Him. The recording ended. No one moved. Nara finally spoke. Aren. He looked toward her. She did not ask whether he was Adrian. She did not ask what the architect remembered. She asked, "Who are you?" The question from Candidate 1. Ask him who he became. Aren looked toward Darius. Toward Pip. Mira. Lucian. Celine. The workshop above. Wayfarer. Nara. Caleb. His life. His choices. He answered. Aren Vale. Then. And Adrian Reyes is part of me. The archive accepted. Engineer identity stable. Nara smiled. Good. Then the ground shook. A deep signal entered workshop 0. The throne component was closer. Arrival estimate. No longer 51 hours. Path, compression. Again. Caleb shouted through the channel. It changed route. How long? 3 hours. Of course. The archive's activation had become a beacon. The throne-bearer had wanted 7th access opened. Aren realized too late. Not a trap exactly. A key. Workshop 0 had revealed the first engineer archive and announced itself. The architect system displayed. Throne component inbound. Then. Purpose, road restoration. Wayfarer waited above. 37% complete. No weapons. 1-inch true deployment. 6 crew. A town full of civilians. 3 hours. Aren looked toward the elevator. Then toward the archive. The next problem had arrived. Darius asked. What do we do? Aren answered immediately. Evacuate Greyhaven. Celine nodded. Good. No heroic stand first. People first. Aren continued. Wayfarer carries anyone the transport network cannot. Mira. I'll coordinate civilian systems. Lucian. I'll prepare the machine for overload cargo. Pip. Emergency routes mapped. Nara. I'll track the component. Caleb. I'll find its path. Rowan's voice came from above. And I'll keep Wayfarer moving. Different roles. Different people. No throne. Aren looked at the first engineer's final frozen image. Humanity's original project had not been an ultimate war machine. It had been something more dangerous to empires. A road no single ruler could close. Aren turned toward the surface. Wayfarer had finally launched. Now it had to prove why it was built. Not to conquer the frontier. To make sure people could still leave when someone else decided they should be trapped. Above Greyhaven, the first evacuation sirens began to sound. And 3 hours away, a piece of the architect throne crossed impossible distance toward Aren's home. Thank you for watching. Please do like, share and subscribe.